what a very loud good morning, very dynamic morning, but we all expect that from you, Soo-Hoon, so happy anniversary to you. So for those of you who were in the room promptly this morning, you would have probably heard my position on this topic that Soo-Hoon has asked us to discuss. So 20 years on, we are, I would say, still debating direct versus indirect, maybe a little bit more quietly after this morning with some of the conversations. And you heard my opinion. When was the last time someone checked out of a hotel and asked you or commented on the channel they booked? Whether it's mine or some of my peers with me today, I don't really think they do, right? And that's, I think, what Soo-Hoon has asked us to discuss. I think the customer is looking for if it's easy, if it feels seamless, if they feel valued, and not to mention the journey to booking and inspiration, which we've seen is astronomically changing as we speak. So if today isn't about channels and it's about the experience, and we've all heard what AI is doing and changing the game, and we're experiencing it every day in our daily lives, with all research pointing to it being experience-led, customer loyalty, owning the customer, that's the new battleground, as I mentioned earlier. So the question is, how do we make sure that wherever the guest comes from, direct, indirect, I've got to find some new words, that we are sharing the experience of how they leave, of that guest experience. So if that channel debate is outdated, I guess the new battleground is the experience and ultimately the customer loyalty. So we're going to go into some questions, if you don't mind. So from your perspective, and I'm going to start with you, Chai.
Yep.
And platforms like Trip.com are sometimes viewed, not sure who that view belongs to, as trying to own the customer. So today, if we're not discussing ownership, it's about co-creating experience. So how do you see OTAs shifting from being gatekeepers to being genuine experience partners?
Okay, good morning, everyone. So thanks, Kerry, for the question. So from my perspective, whether it's Trip.com, and I would probably say the same for other OTAs, I don't think it's about owning the customer. It's really about empowering the customer. It's about providing them with the tools, the information, the content. So for example, Trip.com group, whether it's our AI tool, Trip Genie, or our Trip Moments, where customers can actually put in experiences and information on the app itself, it's really about giving them the ability to be able to search and look for the experience that fits their needs itself. So I think that's the first perspective. Second thing is from Trip.com's point of view, we heard this morning about price, with Agoda, and talking about price being a very important factor. For us, customer service is number one. So again, we want to make sure that for all our customers globally, we have 24/7. Any calls that comes to us is answered within 20 seconds, right? None of those dial 1, dial 2, dial 3, dial 4, and then it routes you to 5 minutes. So again, making sure that we have the best customer experience and making sure that we have also the right tools for them to communicate with our partners. So I can give you some statistics. For example, we have a messaging function that allows our customers to interact with our supply partners, and more than 50% of the queries actually come before the booking, not after the booking, which means that it allows the customer to communicate with our suppliers, to query about information, about pets, about size of rooms, about whether the bathrooms are accessible and so on, before they make the transaction. In fact, we see higher conversion for queries that actually come before the trip, before the booking, or even then comes after the booking itself. So I think, again, it's empowering our customers with the tools itself.
So empowering, okay, that's very good. Laura, I'm going to go directly to you. You knew that. So you've just listened to Chai, but what do you perhaps think is the biggest misconception about OTAs when it comes to channel versus the guest experience?
I think the biggest misconception for OTAs, and we've heard it a little bit yesterday for those that were there, we've seen it in the WiT online story for the last 20 years, that on OTAs is all about the tech and not about
what, sorry?
The OTA is all about the tech and not about the human. And the reality is we're all trying to solve a human problem, and we're trying to do it, yes, through tech first, but that doesn't change what's behind the scenes, what's creating the ideas, what we're building. So I think the misconception very much is OTAs, tech first, yes, but there's a human element behind it, and we've seen that over the last 20 years. We'll see it over the next 20. I think in the discussion now about what does the next 20 not see, and it's the human is never going to disappear. So I think that's the misconception.
Okay, good answer. All right, we'll give you two a break for a moment. Puneet, fellow hotelier. If we agree experience matters most, and do we agree?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, very good. What's harder, creating a seamless booking funnel or creating a seamless in-stay experience? I've got a few, if you don't mind, all in one, because they continue on. How does that contribute to winning loyalty? So experience, loyalty. And where should hotels put their energy?
Sorry, which?
Where should hotels put their energy?
Okay, fantastic. So I firstly think that, we've to a great extent solved the problem of distribution. We haven't solved the problem of trust, really, in our business. And allow me to indulge a little bit
Please
on this.
do.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
So how many times do you check into a hotel for the second or the third time and still be presented a registration card asking you for your email ID and your address? Happens often? Yeah? All right. How many times you build that awesome spa package that you book only to arrive at a hotel to say that the timings that work for you don't work for the spa, right? So the experience gone down the drain. So what we are trying to solve today is not really a distribution problem. We are trying to solve a data disconnection problem, right? There's a report by McKinsey which says only 13% of the travel business has solved the problem of connecting these dots together, right? Or having a kind of a unified view where food and beverage, spa, rooms, other ancillary areas in a hotel kind of come together and work together, right? So that's one of the key challenges today, right? And another stat, when you think about it, we've increased our booking conversions by 20 to 30% with better technology, better understanding of data, customer behavior, etc. But an in-stay experience increases the probability for the guests to stay in the hotel, and we've experienced it at Como Hotels and Resorts, by 3.8x, right? So what you do, in transacting with the customer, because we solve the transaction problem, but if that is not carried through during the in-stay process, right, of being seamless, then what you're ending up doing is creating frictions during an in-stay journey of the customers. You see, one needs to appreciate our customers don't interact with us in silos, our technologies do. So the problem is of systematic fragmentation rather than an ability to solve a distribution or channel problem, right? And that's where my examples came from, the spa and the experiences, you're trying to book all of that. And I think that's one of the key challenges with...
So which one's harder? I'm going to have to make you answer the question.
I definitely say experience orchestration. I'm going to use this keyword time and time again, experience orchestration. I think that's the keyword that we need to solve for as an industry. That's hardest.
I like that one. I do like that one. I think I had a very similar end to my argument this morning about hotels being the architect of the whole travel experience. I missed that because I didn't speak fast enough, so I've got it in now. So actually, I'm going to come back to Chai. Two things, Chai.
Yep.
I just want to pick up on something Puneet just said about we don't do enough to win trust. So I'd like you to hold that in mind and think about what you're doing to win the trust of the traveller. But the actual question I had for you was we often, or maybe we don't always, but there's sometimes an association, right or wrong, that luxury with being slower to innovate. From a platform perspective, do you see ultra-luxury hotels adapting fast enough to today's digital-first guest, or is there a gap? And if you'd like to also answer the question, you may, but we'll start with you.
So from my perspective, I don't think speed is the determinant factor. I think at the end of the day, it's really about making sure that you provide the best experience for the customer. Of course, if you can have both speed and experience, that's the best. I'll give you my personal experience. Less than a month ago, I was in Europe, one of the cities in Europe. I did all the pre-check-in and payment beforehand. Lo and behold, when I arrived at the hotel at midnight, I took 1 hour to check in. 1 hour. And when I asked the front desk, I said, why is it that it took me 1 hour? I said, you have all my information. Oh, because I have to take documentation of your passport and your information. I mean, from my perspective, I think it may be a valid regulatory rule in Europe, in certain parts of Europe, but potentially for me, he could have allowed me to actually go to the room first before I come back the next day or in the morning to get my documents. So to Puneet's point, right, I think there is a lot of things that we can do from the hotel's perspective to leverage as much as possible technology to make the experience a lot seamless for the customer itself. But again, I don't think it's about speed. I think it's making sure that you do the right thing for the customer so that they feel the best experience from the customer's perspective. Going back to trust. How are you going to provide trust? I think trust is not built overnight. It's really something that, of course, through experience, through information, through content, through word of mouth, through reviews, through social media especially, because at least at this moment, if you talk about globally, this is really how, especially Asians, take contents and take information. So I think word of mouth will be very, very key in terms of building trust. And of course, at the end of the day, you have deliver a very good product for the customer, for them to actually have trust in your product itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also comes down to how we're going to be using that data, right, to solve some of that friction.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no point collecting it, gathering it, and then not personalising and making sure that experience is relevant to what we know about that customer. Laura, if I can come back to you, do you think technology enhances or risks diluting what makes a great experience? And what's the one thing you think OTAs must do differently to deliver true experience first journeys and stay relevant?
So it's a little leading question there, the first one. Do I think that we enhance or dilute? I would say clearly we obviously enhance.
We are friends.
We are. I think there's a huge enhancement in what we can offer. And it's interesting, we've talked a lot already on this panel, let alone this morning and at all conferences these days. AI is always associated with trust, right? So we say, you can't mention you can't do a session without AI now. You cannot also do a session without trust. We've always been talking about the data. Who owns the data? How does that get consolidated? How does it get used? How does it get shared? But this concept of actually where we can add the value, it's bringing all of those components together. It's using the technology in absolutely the best way possible. That's now, and Omri mentioned it earlier, we're actually taking it from a piece of the funnel to the very top. So providing enhancement at the very top through the technology that now puts us into the inspiration phase where we've typically not been as OTAs. We've been very much functional, making that seamless component. We can now inspire, we can now look for different opportunities. So we play in a different space and we need to be trusted there as well. So we need to be trusted at every component where we believe we can add value. And then it comes to, okay, who owns the data? And again, I think it was interesting this morning on the debate when Timothy won with the sense of the traveller ultimately wins.
Yep.
And ultimately the data is the travellers, it's theirs, it's ours as travellers. Yep. So how do we make sure that that gets to the right people at the right time to make sure that we continue to enhance at every stage of the journey and not just at the inspiration or at the check-in phase or at the checkout. So. Sure. And all those kind of components, for me, come together.
So it's not one thing, it's several things.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a rethink of the whole funnel
yeah,
for you.
And I believe that we can enhance at all the stages now, as opposed to trying to just fix one piece.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. Puneet, you're known for experience-led hospitality, but revenue management is also about yield, margins, and efficiency. Do we risk putting owners and balance sheets ahead of the guest when we obsess about channel priorities? And what's going to change when we're not obsessing about channel priorities?
It's an interesting debate, and we always have, especially end up having with some of the owners. So in my opinion, it's a paradox.
It's what?
It's a paradox, right? And why I say that? Because profitability is not divergent to investment in customers. You know, it is more a convergence that comes together, right? So, for instance, loyalty. It doesn't begin with this beginning of a booking process. You know, it's what the guest experiences and stays through and takes back with themselves. I'll give you a few examples, right? On the point of loyalty, for instance, right? So the popular belief is, you know, you burn points, you earn points, and you know, you spend that, and it's like cash. You did the program this weekend, right? You talked about. I'm going to take a snippet from your program, right? She didn't pay me to talk about the Accor program, but just taking a snippet from that. So at Como, we thought, should we be loyalty points focused or should we be experience focused, right? And where should we invest money? So I'll give you 3 very distinct examples, right? And it's kind of the CCE of Como, if I may coin it, put it there. Customer, firstly understanding customers. What are the aspirations? What are the desires? What do they expect of a brand like Como, for instance? The second one is about co-creation, collaboration, right? How do you co-create, collaborate to bring that value to those customers, right, in a meaningful manner? And the third thing is execution. How do you make the execution so simple and so amazing that when they go back home, they carry a very, very good taste and aftertaste in their mouth, right? We are known for our Como cuisine, so the aftertaste must stay with you of a great meal. So an experience is something like that, right? So we did a collaboration with the Rafa Nadal Academy. We did this tennis collaboration. And that was a huge success because one of the problems we were solving is for families traveling and how do they engage their children in a meaningful activity during their stay, and it was open to Como Club members, right? So they could book that experience as a first come, first serve, right? The second one we did was a co-creation, and this time we went all the way to NASA, and we got these NASA astronauts to work with us and create the space camp. It was so successful, we had to repeat it again, right? And we get queries all the time when the space camp is going to come back next time, right? And the third example is really a collaboration come co-creation along with photographers of National Geographic, along with a cruise experience, which was the Como Arctic Cruise. And you can find a huge demographic dividend of different generations come through with that, right? It was really fantastic to see such a multi-generational effort. Now, put all of this together, it costs money to do that.
Yes. What are the owners saying?
The mindset needs to change because we measure in occupancy, ADR, and average rate and RevPARs. And to be honest, I'm a hardcore revenue management geek, right? I eat that for breakfast, right? But
Sounding like a proper CMO, might I add, right?
but the more emotive part, I think we do a terrible job of measuring, which is return on emotional investment.
Yeah.
Right? You have created something which is far more greater as a connection with your customers, with people who kind of dance with your brand. To take it to that next level. So that's really where it comes to.
Good answer. And I know my team's down there, and I know that we spend a lot of time analysing consumer data and thinking about the value beyond the RevPAR, the IGI positioning. So good to see we're talking a very common language. I'm conscious of time. I'm going to move on. Chai, where does the guest journey most often break down for you?
Yep.
And who should fix it, the platform or the hotel?
If you don't mind, 30 seconds on
no, please go ahead.
About experience,
You
right?
sound
Go
like
ahead.
Channel News Asia.
Are you disputing something?
Yeah, because the thing is, talk about loyalty points and experience, right? So, for example, typically OTAs or even direct brand.com sites, right? They only focus on loyalty points. For Trip.com, we are actually going beyond to make sure that we provide even additional benefits, like for example, eSIM card for any customers that is on our app and they are on a member, they get free eSIM card. They get free airport transfer upgrades. They get free attractions tickets. Now, this is going above beyond just giving you points to book travels itself. So I think it's about making sure that you put yourself in the shoes of the customers and seeing when they travel what they need, and so you have a full suite of products itself. Going back to the question about what breaks down, typically it happens at two parts. One, really when the customers make the booking and they are on the way or they are going into check-in at the hotel. That's where...
It's never on the booking platform, is it?
So I mean, that's where I think generally that's where the gap happens, right? Because basically they make the transactions and when they arrive, there could be an issue. But to your point, to your question, I don't think it's a either-or problem. I think it's a joint effort and partnership between the platform as well as hotels to make the experience and the transition as seamless as possible through pre-check-in information, through data, through messaging, through communications. And at the same time, if hotels have any issues with the customers, they can also directly contact our customer service, or customers can directly contact us even during the stay itself. So I would say the transition is one area. The other one is during the stay. During the stay, of course, they will have the hotel partners, customer service and support helping them. But in the event that they need to come to the platform for any additional support, for us to interject or facilitate any conversations between the customers and the partners, we will also our customer service can also do that part.
I think maybe just to add to that, we talk about owning the customer, and we all want to own the customer until something goes wrong. That's the time we should all be owning the customer.
Thank you. That was exactly why I was asking that question. Yeah. But your point, and just before I'm going to come to you, Laura, anyway, with a question, but I think loyalty programs I speak on behalf of, I guess, the brand environment have certainly changed considerably over the last decade, right? So there will always be point junkies, but the programs are much more than that, right? The direction of those programs are highly experience-led for Puneet, you just heard, but it's the same for us from Money Can't Buy experiences. So it's changing, and it continues to change rapidly because the battlefield is really winning the heart of that customer, of the experience, and making sure that they leave wanting more of your brand, whoever you are. So, Laura, talking about ownership, key word, were you prompting me for my own question? You don't own the stay, but you do claim to own the discovery and booking moment. So what does guest experience mean for Booking.com in a world where personalisation is becoming commoditised and search fundamentally shifts?
Yeah, so I think going back to the kind of ownership piece, I think we should own the customer from the beginning to the end, as should you guys as hoteliers. Mm-hmm. From when you place your property on our platform, right through to when they're checking out and giving the review. And the same for us. We should now start to own the space of inspiring travellers of where to think about going, maybe give something new that they can look at that they might not have thought about. So I do think that ownership kind of runs through the entire thread. In terms of personalization, whether it's, personalization is a now very widely used word, like I said, commoditized to the point. That data allows us to make it very individual and not, we used to market to the masses, then we started to market to kind of the niche, now we market to the individual, which means that we can actually take that journey to be that experiential, something that is super unique to me. And to your point about whether, and I think you even mentioned it in your pitch this morning, that nobody wants to talk about, or no one's posting at the end of their trip, oh, we booked on Booking and here's a screenshot of our exciting experience we had. We don't want them to do that. We want them to just by default go, because they know that they can spend as least time there as possible, whether it's for inspiration, whether it's for booking, whether it's for leaving the reviews. But it was by default because it was just so easy. Then we want them to talk about the incredible experience that they had when they got there. That's where it gets personal for me. Personalized in terms of, we know who you are, we know where you like to stay, and we know the DNA of the properties for the most part, because we also see a lot of other travelers going there, the experience they've had, that we can share. Trust comes back to, it's not just said by us, it's not just said by you on our platform, it's said by customers themselves. 350 million reviews, that's what people trust us for, and the seamless process. But that's where kind of I think we can make a significant difference.
reputation, everything, right, and building trust. So I don't know, Chai, would you like to also comment on that question? Do you have anything else to add for you?
I mean, something sort of on the side, right? So, for example, I think if we talk about experience and owning the customer, again, I wouldn't say we own the customer. Again, we have to provide them the right tools. So, for example, other than some of those stuff that I mentioned, we've also provided an additional tool on the Trip.com, which is a travel buddy product. People are looking for connections. When they go overseas, right, whether they travel to China or Korea or Europe and so on, I'm going alone, but I want to see who else is going. So they actually can go on the Trip.com app and say, hey, I'm going to this destination. Anyone going to the destination, whether it's a group of friends or someone in the same kind of community and so on, I can connect with them and then we go together. So again, what you are trying to do is to give them that tools so that they can connect with people that they want to. Because travel is an experience that you connect with people.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so very quick answers on the next one, and or quickish. So where are we really in changing the conversation? You've all delivered very strong views around shared ownership, around removing friction, around responsible use of that data, the personalization, the direction of which I guess our shared industry is going, and that what impact that will be on winning the new battleground, which is the customer. So how far along are we in the journey of ending the conversation around distribution and channels and guest experience? You can just give me a percentage and you can give me a comment. Do you think the strategy's changed? Do you think the conversation's changed? We'll start with you, Puneet.
Yeah, I think, so it's, to me, it's a mindset change. It's a paradigm change, right? So Cindy Etis-Green wrote this amazing document about net RevPAR, and the whole conversation shifted towards the cost of acquisition.
Yes.
Right? And we till date to death talk about cost of acquisition and how it's rising and what's happening. I think it's high time we change our mindset from cost of acquisition for competing for retention. Right? What does it cost to compete for retention? Right? And I think that's a huge mindset change. And in that case, I think the tech space is ready. The customers have moved on. Have we moved on? We are still waiting for a TripAdvisor feedback at the end of a customer's journey to say, oh, we are sorry, you had a terrible experience. What the hell were we doing when the customer was with you?
Yeah.
What investment did you make in absolute immediate responsiveness, whether using technology or whether using tool, right? I'll give you, and there's some amazing examples, right, of aspects that your housekeeping staff can pick up, right? Nothing is hidden in a hotel, to be honest. I'm always scared of hotels, especially if I'm working for one, right? Nothing is ever hidden in a hotel. Everyone knows what's going on. So if everyone knows what's going on, why is it that the management is oblivious to it, right? So I think that is one mindset change that needs to be done.
Okay, continuing.
For me, I think really we have to hold our hands together and walk the journey together with our customers. At the end of the day, if we work together, whether it's OTAs, brand.com or hotels, and we put ourselves in the shoes of the customer, I think the customer wins, we win, and the world wins.
We solve world peace.
We're going to be skipping off this stage together in a minute. Go on.
I think to answer your question, yes or no, has the conversation moved on? Honestly, no.
Yeah.
It hasn't. We're going to continue to have the discussions. Whether or not how much you want to get direct, how much we also want to get direct. We also use different models to try and get our own bookings. That's not going to go away soon, but the conversation is changing, certainly towards experiences. Yes, we all understand that. And the technology will change, how we utilize it. Yeah. That will change, but whether or not it's you get the customer first, I get the customer, how much we pay for the customer is not going away anytime soon.
All right, I'm going to reserve judgment on that. But look, I think in the end, whatever the conversation is happening, what I'm really hearing is that probably the customer will choose the way that they want to book. They won't really care where they want to book, but they will care about how we all make them feel when they're interacting with our brands. But I guess whoever makes the journey simple, personal, and memorable will be the one the guest chooses again. And maybe the only loyalty that really matters. So speaking from the big brand perspective, we firmly believe the shift will be in our favour. Watch this space. Thank you very much. Always good to have the last word.
Thank you.